Hi guys, it's Kelly here, and today I am going to be sharing with you a fun light up shaker aquarium card. I love shakers, I love light up cards, and here in this one we're creating lots of depth and dimension so that it looks like we're really looking through this porthole, and we have a lot of more realistic layers to really kind of bring our whole scene to life. So here is a little peek there. We're going to go dark for a second so you can see what it looks like when it's lit up when it's dark. Super fun card. I'm thrilled with the way that it came out. And now we'll jump into kind of what I used for this. So here we have the porthole, we have the fish bowl, we have the tiny aquarium elements, and then I ended up going with the sentiment that says, you make the world a brighter place, or you make this world a brighter place. And that, but the other one, the best fishes, would have worked as well if you needed a birthday card. And then we're going to start die cutting everything. So originally I was die cutting my window out of white cardstock. I am going to change that. This was kind of a process I learned as I went. So I've trimmed everything down. I'm doing my porthole out of gold metallic cardstock. I am doing its little rivets out of silver. Here's where I switch over to the vellum. The reason that I ended up switching over to the vellum is because I have the Halo light from Pear Blossom Press, and it is sized to go perfectly. There's 3 different sizes of circle cover plates that Trinity makes, and it's sized to go perfectly with them. But I wanted there to be more ocean that you could see through this porthole. So I kind of had to come up with a creative way to hide my light, but still leave a larger opening through our porthole to see all of our fun ocean life. So I am cutting it out of vellum. And then here's that metallic cardstock that we talked about. My wonderful daughter colored in the middle of in the middle of that. This is going to be my frame or my side of my ship. And so I'm just using a circle die cut to cut out of there. And this is slightly smaller than the porthole, just so that it'll have something to adhere to. Here, all I'm doing, I'm just giving it a little bit of texture so that it looks like maybe it's part of a ship. And I'm just doing like shiplap. So this Spellbinder's trimmer has a cutting blade, but it also has a scoring blade. So I ended up scoring like every inch, and then I went back and scored like a 1/4 of an inch next to that. So I have some wider stripes and some more narrow ones just to add some interest, like I said, so it looked like the side of a ship. I use the wave background to create my ocean. So I originally, I wanted this to maybe be a little bit more metallic. I'll be honest with you, none of that came through. Not a single bit of it. Not on the stamping anyway. So you could use whatever blue works for you. I used this one is it's a Cloud9 ink from Lisa Horton, which is a metallic ink. And then I stamped that down just on some white cardstock. And then I'm going to do some ink blending over top of that. Again, I wanted it to be like shimmery, but I didn't really get the shimmer when I stamped it. I don't know. Maybe I was supposed to do something different. It didn't. It's fine. Just use a regular blue ink or that one. It doesn't matter. So for my background, I am starting with salvage patina, and I'm kind of putting that all over. But then once from there, I am going to speed this up. I am going to add shading around, but I'm kind of just adding it around what is going to be my center focal point. Where my fish are, I want it to be a little bit lighter, but I want there to be some darkness surrounding it. So from the salvage patina, I went to Salty Ocean, Mermaid Lagoon, and then Uncharted Mariner. And then I always do my ink blending twice. I feel like that gives me the best blend. So from the Uncharted Mariner, I will go back through the Mermaid Lagoon, Salty Ocean to salvage patina. And then I do check it. I am a fan, a big advocate for the dry fit. You know how like when you're building something, they say measure twice, cut once. I will check, double check, triple check my things so many times because there's always something. Even I'm currently getting ready for a fundraiser, actually for tonight. for a friend of mine, and I had to do the signs for all these wonderful raffle baskets that people have donated. And I cannot tell you, my sister was sitting next to me. And so I would like type out one, and then I would go back, and then I would type it out again, and then I would go back, and then I would like, I'd look at them in print view, double check them, double check my spelling, double check my spacing, do one, double check all four of the ones I just did. Like, I'm crazy. I know that. But it does help when I'm working along in the process if I continually double check it to make sure that things are going to work. So here, this part did work to add the metallic in the background. And then here, I really wanted to kind of like grunge up my porthole. And originally, this is just dye ink. And this will work to like dab this in if you only want it in the creases. So I used I think a chocolate brown and a black from Gina K. And I used finger daubers just to kind of rub it in. And you can see it does work to sit in the crevices, but it will not dry on top of the metallic surface. So I'm going to do something a little bit later. So here you can see how much wider my circle is than my vellum. And it looks crazy right now because it doesn't look like anything goes together. But I need that vellum to, first of all, hide my halo light. Because you can see here, this is like a multi-pack. But the halo light has lights all around it, which is perfect for something like an aquarium. How about I put the battery in the right side, right? So anyway, it's perfect for that. But it is too small for my porthole. So you can very clearly see my halo light, which I don't want. I want my halo light to be concealed. I want my card to still light up. You can hear me clicking it. It's sitting in front of me. I can't help myself when I have an interactive card. So I kind of played around with a little bit. You can see how bright those lights are. So the other thing I need the vellum for is to diffuse the light and make it so it's not so stark. So now I've cut a smaller one, a smaller hole. And I am taking the same metallic ink and I'm just rubbing it right on top of my vellum. I'm protecting the vellum from my fingerprints using a piece of tape, and I'm just kind of rubbing everything in. You want to be gentle because the vellum can bend, but here looks much better, because you can still kind of see the waves, but this is going to work so much better to conceal our light. And by the time we get in all of our sea life, our background, midground, and foreground, you won't be able to see any of that. And it does help to diffuse the light. So now here, I'm going back to aging that metallic. And this time I'm using Stays On, which will stamp stick to anything. Stays On, I love the way Stays On smells. Don't huff it. That's not safe. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is it smells like almond extract, and that makes my heart happy. I love the way it smells. So I did pounce this on with a finger dauber, and then I kind of let it sit. And then I went to go back in and to kind of like buff up some of the areas. And here's what I found when I was rubbing it. It was kind of taking off some of the gold, and it was allowing some of almost like a silver to show through, which I really liked that. So in some of the areas I left it gold, and some of it I rubbed it so that it was, pretty clean and showed some of that silver. This is a foam sheet from scrapbook.com. It's 3 millimeters, I believe. And I'm going to cut my porthole out of this. Don't throw away your extra pieces. We're going to need them. I didn't pull apart the two pieces, because the porthole cuts an outside piece and then an inside piece. I let them stay together. I just took out the very center of it. And this is what's going to help lift up our porthole so that we can have not only the light behind it, but also the shaker bits. So once I know where my light's going to go and I've laid everything out, again, the dry fit, I'm going to use a pencil to just trace around the outside edge of my light. So then I can go in with some, what is this? This is double-sided adhesive from Altenew. And I'm just going to put that all over the back. And then that way I can just go ahead, remove that tape. I am going to cut it because I did little pieces. So that was my own fault. I could have done it all in one fell swoop, but I kept ripping it. That was my own doing. But anyway, so now I'm going to put the light down where it needs to go, and then I'll be able to kind of test everything out. Now, here, what I'm doing is I'm marking where the light is because I have to trim out the foam piece so that it will fit around the light, the halo light. Here, I kind of got ahead of myself here. I put the adhesive onto the back of my card front, but it's not actually time for that. So just hold tight. I'm going to build up this is my sentiment here. I'm adding this little friend I cut this out of Cosmic Sky from Spellbinders. And then I did that on a little bit of a vellum shadow. Put that together, and then I am going to put my little rivets onto my porthole. I cut those ones out of silver just so that they would stand out a little bit. I'm going to age these as well. If you do not have stays on, but you do have alcohol inks or alcohol markers, these will also work to kind of age your metallic papers. Because alcohol ink will stick to anything, they work really, really well. For the coloring, we are so simple here, guys. There's no point in spending a ton of time doing a bunch of shading because we have background fish, we have foreground fish, we have seaweed, we have coral, we have lights, we have shaker bits. We are a whole Broadway show here, folks. And there's no reason why we need a ton of different elements all shaded up because nobody would even notice them. So for the little fish in the background, I did them all orange, but I did want to have like a dark orange and a light orange. So for some of them, I just did like a dark stripe down at the bottom. And then for the other one, I did an even darker orange. I think that's a YR09. And then I filled it in with the lighter orange. So I do have some dark orange fish and some light orange fish, just to kind of break up that background since those are the only fish that are going to be on the furthest layer. There's two other types of fish in here. One of them is this one, which is like the little bit wider fish, and then the other one is more slender. So I'm actually going to end up with two of each fish. The one is yellow and blue, the other one is orange and yellow. The slender fish is pink and purple, that's the one that you see up there, and then the other one is yellow and pink. So again, I just needed multiple fish to fill this in and create the different layers. And I'm just using the darker color to kind of like go around, add, a little bit of darkness maybe to their fins or like where their fin connects to their body. For the coral, again, I'm just using that one pink and I'm flicking it up. For the purple, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm kind of going to add a little bit of shading on the underneath of the fish from the bottom of the coral kind of up. For the blue fish, I did put a little bit of shading kind of like behind his head. So yeah, I just kind of tucked in all these bits and bobs. I did have some issues along the way because this is my first time creating kind of like a multi-tier shaker light up card. Love the way it came out though. I love the way that it came out. I think it is so, so fun. And so if you have a friend who like loves the ocean or lives by the ocean, or maybe they love the fishes, this is such a fun one to get. Like it's just so bright and colorful and just like screams summer. So here you have the extra little fin, that you can like stick into that center. For two of the fish, I didn't do the fin because I honestly didn't know I was going to need the extra fish until after the fact. And I only had certain parts of them cut out. I didn't keep the fin part, so I just didn't put it in, and it was totally fine. Going to get them little eyeballs with a dark gray so that you can see them. And then we're going to go back in and start kind of building everything up. So I've added that double-sided adhesive to the background of my porthole. I'm going to get that lined up on the front of my card. And then this is one of the boo-boos that I made. I needed to put in that second piece. because I started building up you can see here, I've built up all of my kind of like sea life at the bottom there, the plant part of it, but it's going to get half covered up by the second ring. So instead of pulling everything apart, I decided I was going to pick it up with some press and seal. And then from there, I would just glue it to itself. So I'm going to pick them up as a group. It ends up actually being two groups. I'm going to pick it up as a group from the press and seal. And then now I have to put my acetate. I have to have the window. That was part of my problem. I didn't have the window in place, and I didn't have that other ring in place. So now I'm going to put my card front, that is like the walls of my ship, onto my acetate. Then I'm going to reattach my porthole. You can see the casualties of the seaweed that didn't make it there. I'm going to put my porthole back on, and then I'm going to go back in and put in that second layer, which is a large part of what I was missing before. If you kind of run up against these things, and we all do, don't get discouraged, because as long as, you're still willing to try, it's still fixable. So I did, like I said, I ran into a couple little snafus. That was okay. I just worked around it. I just, just kept on with it. So anywho, so I've actually made this card before we went on vacation. And it was just kind of like waiting for my day on the blog. So this is part of the July release from Trinity, which is actually when back then I made this card at the same time. But I knew because of the fundraiser that I needed to hang on to it because I wasn't going to have an opportunity to make another one. But I am hoping to use them again because the porthole, and then there's also the fishbowl, and there's one that's like a little tropical island. They also go with the circle shape cards, and that's super fun. So here I've added a little bit of extra adhesive down at the bottom, and now I can go in and pick up my little corals and they will stick to that. And then any of the little bits that I just didn't get in there yet, I'll just add some adhesive and then just kind of tuck them in. And that's going to be our foreground. So when we're making this multi-level, this is the one closest to the window. That is the foreground. And then we'll do some fish in the mid-level and then some fish in the background. And it's going to create a really great look. So for this fundraiser, I have no issue doing the fundraiser. Here, I do have to block off the foam, I have to go up at the top. I cannot have a big enough foam piece to interfere with the light, but I do need a foam piece to cover up that area. Otherwise, my shaker bits will fall out over my light. So then once I have that little piece in place, then I can go ahead and put this bigger piece in place, and that's going to be butted up right against that light. And so because we have that foam piece, everything will stay. Here, I'm just double checking that everything sits nicely, and then remember I told you not to throw away those foam bits. Now we're going to use them, we're going to trim them down, and this is how we're going to make the whole card level. So I'm going to just trim out some little triangles for the corners, and then I did trim the bottom a little bit. So I would never change doing the fundraiser because obviously it's for a dear friend of mine who needs the money. But Amazon, let's talk about Amazon. Amazon is doing me dirty lately, guys. Do you remember when we used to have Amazon Prime and then we got our stuff the next day, and that's why you paid for Amazon Prime? And now, I had ordered it. I gave myself 3 or 4 days, and it was supposed to be here by Friday. And that's when I was going to set up the fundraiser. So I was like, that's fine. Well, it wasn't. And it was delayed. So there was half my order that was delayed. So then I ended up spending Friday morning running around frantically to purchase all of the things that I did need that I had already purchased on Amazon, but I couldn't wait because Amazon had delayed them. And then there was another package that I didn't buy. It was balloon columns and some balloons, but I didn't replace those because it said it was still to be delivered today. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Well, then it comes time for me to leave to go to the church to set up for the fundraiser, and the balloon columns aren't here. So I end up I call my sister who was coming to help me set up. Amazing. And she stopped on the way for me to pick them up because I couldn't be late meeting all the other volunteers. Back to the card. So here I am putting down the vellum. You can, once it's dry, you can do the colored side up or down. It doesn't matter. And then you can see those shaker bits. The shaker bits that I put in are faceted fluorite. And then from there, like we have the fish in the background, and then I'm going to start adding the fish into the middle. That's what you see me doing here. These fish are going to sit on top of the vellum, not necessarily like glued up by the what am I talking about? The coral. I have some like that purple fish up by the coral, but then I have some fish that are just in the middle. So we have many, many layers going on here. And thankfully, due to the addition of the acetate window, the vellum, and then the fish and the coral, you can't even see that halo light that was so glaringly obvious in the beginning. So anyway, my sister ended up having to stop and get them for me, and because they didn't come. And then when I got home, I was like, why are they still not here yet? And it's because it turns out they hadn't even shipped them yet. So I was like, what is going on with the Amazons? Like, what am I even paying for? And then my husband lovingly reminded me that when my in-laws moved into their new house, they kept saying that they didn't have Prime, and it was taking them like 2 weeks to get their packages. He was like, that's why you pay for Prime, so you don't take 2 weeks. And I was like, yeah, but I remember when it was a day, 2 tops, and I'm sad and I miss that. But anywho, so now that we're done here, I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on. What you saw me do was add some white gel pen highlights and some glitter. Make sure you do all of your detail work before you put the lid on. But here you can see it shakes and it lights up, and that is fabulous. And look at how, like, look at the depth that we have created by having the multiple layers. Obviously, this kind of card is going to be for like somebody extra special, unless you just like making interactive cards, which I have to tell you that I have found myself more and more enjoying making them. Even though I'm not an engineer, I think they're really fun. I think the end result for me is worth the amount of time that it takes. So I did go with the sentiment, you make this world a brighter place, because it, you know, matches up with the light, as well as like the brighter colors of the fish, just to send to like a friend for a little pick-me-up. And then I use the same rhinestones, that faceted fluorite, to do the accent, the sentiment. And then here you can see it shake around. I will show you it again in the dark, and how it lights up all the little fish and creates the little shadows. I think it's really, really cool. I hope that you guys do too. I hope that this inspires you to maybe give a multi-layer shaker or a multi-layer light up card a try. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with me. I always appreciate you, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.